of religion has deep roots in Islamic jurisprudence. Not only within Islam itself, where you have a million flowers bloom, but also for non-Muslims. And that, by the way, includes atheists. Okay? This is something that surprises Muslims. But I point, because they think, in an atheist, a lot of the views in the past were if you're a non-Muslim, or if you leave Islam for another religion, you should be killed. That's what is the issue called? Well, you remember it. Well, how could that be if Islam believes in freedom of religion? How could that be? Could somebody explain to me? There have been examples of people who were killed in Muslim communities when they changed their religion. How could that be? We force them to be Muslims? What's the meaning of that if you force them to be Muslims?
Does it have to do with the political situation at the time?
Exactly. They were at war, right? Some Muslims changed their religion, which also meant changed camps, went to the other camp and became a real security issue for the Muslims. So it was part of the war fighting that they got killed, not as a result of the fact that they changed their religion, not because they changed their religion in a time of peace. And that's something that has not been understood. Let's, for example, point to the example of al-Ghazali. Al-Ghazali is a famous jurist of medieval times that I have quoted, I think, last time to you before. And in that, in his books, he writes about a great deal of doubt about the existence of God. He predates Descartes. Many of you have heard about Descartes and his doubt. But he might have heard also of al-Ghazali, okay, and went on the same journey that al-Ghazali wrote about. Al-Ghazali said, what do I believe in? He threw all his beliefs out and started from zilch. And he finally came from doubt to faith. Well, how come he wasn't killed when he was doubting? Because he certainly was not quiet about it, he lived in society. People must have known he was going through doubt. How come he wasn't killed? So I think we really oversimplify the stories from the past about what happened in Islamic societies. Then, of course, we said there are the different views within Islam itself. Besides having at least 5 schools in Shiism and having another, God knows how many, in Sunni Islam, and there were hundreds before. Okay? They existed. They survived. What happened? Why did they get killed? Because they differed on certain views. This kind of religious oppression, I would say religious/political, came later as the governance model in the Islamic system deteriorated. So if you see religious oppression within Muslims themselves, not necessarily against others, non-Muslims, but within Islam itself, you will see correlated to it a deterioration in the governance system from the democratic system that I will describe to you, that authoritarian system that becomes very, very oppressive. Okay, so we go back and we say the Islamic proper model, the healthy model that was presented to us by the Prophet through this document and revealed to us in the Quran, is that everybody is free to follow their own religion. And freedom of religion also means freedom of sect, right? As in the American model, where the Christian leaders of this country separated church and state so that they will not establish a sect. Similarly, in the Muslim state, the state was not allowed to establish a sect. And I'll give you an example. Malik, who is one of the 4 major Sunni scholars that remain to this day, was very much admired by the Abbasid ruler, I think it was Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. Al-Mansur was so enthralled by the jurisprudence of Malik that he offered to make it actually the official jurisprudence of the state. And Malik refused. Why? Because he said, I cannot force other people to follow my interpretations. What if I'm wrong? Because the Quran says, and I think I mentioned that to you before, that if you misread people, or if you read them astray, you're not only responsible for your burden, but the burden of those you led astray. And Malik said, I don't want that. Let them choose freely. Twice he was asked, and twice he rejected the Khalifa's offer to establish a religion, namely his interpretation of Islam. That is a proof of the early example of separation of church and state in the Islamic state. Okay, no sect was allowed to be established, and people were free to believe whatever they wanted. What happens then to Christians and Jews? It's an Islamic state. What happens to them? We speak about freedom of religion. Do we mean it? What do they get? What do you think they should get? Yes.
Religious freedom.
How do they get religious freedom?
The ability to have control over their own religious sects.
Exactly following this compact, many Muslim states, even up to the Ottoman Empire days, continued applying this model at various levels of success to other communities. And what this meant is that if you're a Christian in a Muslim state, you're not governed by Islamic law, but you're governed by by the laws of your church. So if you're getting married, if you're getting divorced, whatever something has to do with your church laws will govern your life, unless you decide to opt out of that. And there are people who opt out because they believe in forum shopping, and they go choose something which might be more satisfactory to them, advantageous to them outside their church. That's their business. We don't ask them, is their conscience clear or not? That's their business between them and God. Same thing with the Jews. In Lebanon today, there are 17 sects. 3-4 religions, I don't know how many religions, but 17 sects. They all have their laws. They're all governed by their laws. You might think that this is, this is crazy. What is the state going to look like? It's going to look like the United States, where you have state law, 50 of them, right? You say, well, it's in New Jersey, it's New Jersey law. But in the Islamic model, you'll have Christians, Jews, and all in New Jersey. How does that work? Well, I remind you, in contract law, you choose the law of the contract. You could be in New Jersey and choose New York law. It works the same way. It's not that crazy. If you know which law you are subject to, which one you're choosing, then you just follow it. Okay? So there is no establishment of religion in a very important and strong sense in the Islamic State as of 1500 years ago. Okay? Meaning that no religion is forced upon any group, and no sect is established by the Islamic State. But of course the Islamic State believes in one God, Tawheed and all. This is the same sense I would say that the founding fathers had in mind when they spoke about separation of church and state. The increasing height of the wall of separation came later through Supreme Court interpretations, and a lot of the conservative Americans have criticized that changed definition of separation of church and state. Okay? To where it became, in the view of some, that separation a matter of being hostile to religion in the public square, as opposed to just a separation. And so there was a backlash in which many American Christians and people of faith decided to open up the public square to religion side by side to those who don't believe in, the secularists, etc. Okay? But in Islam, from the very beginning, that balance in the shadow of believing in God was always there.